Welcome to Dirty Welds Done Dirt Cheap. This is Volume 1, Edition 1. We're going to start making some videos here. Oops, sorry about that. I noticed that was shaking. I'm just a guy in a shed. I wanted to run some rods, show you the difference and how they perform. What we've got is 6011, 6013, 7014, 7018 AC. I've chosen all these today because I'm going to be running them all on AC. I have a Lincoln buzzbox over there. It's an AC/DC version, so we can run these on DC, and I will at a later time. But I'm making this video because most people that are watching these type of videos are just sitting in their shed trying to figure out what's going on, and I figured I'd make a video, help you guys out. The 6011 rod is very handy for getting on dirty metal. What I have here is a little I-beam. It's not very thick. I'm going to use the top of it, the strongest part of it, run up the middle so I can show you the 6011 to be run on dirty metal, fast freeze. We have 6013, which is a medium freeze, and it can run on dirty metal. A 7014, which is also a fast freeze in the way that sort of, they don't qualify this as a fast freeze rod. The reason why I call it a fast freeze rod is because it'll do whatever you tell it to do. It's one of those rods that if you stand it straight up, it lays a real flat bead. If you lay it a little more down, it'll lay ripples. And if you lay it kind of flat and run it, it will do a pretty detailed bead like a fast freeze rod. Technically though, it is not fast freeze, it's medium freeze. And a 7018 AC, which is a slow freeze. This one will puddle up. It's a little bit prone to porosity. You have to have a clean piece of metal, and you have to be careful about starting it and not getting porosity in the weld. You should want to run this a little bit more vertical than some of the other ones to keep the porosity out of it. It'll puddle up real nice and smooth, so will the 6013, and the 7014 will do it as well if you use it correctly. So what we'll do is we'll just start with the low numbers and go up. 6011. 6011 is a fast freeze. It does not care what the condition of your metal is, it will eat through it. So we'll go ahead. I'm going to run these on AC at 105 amps, and we'll just see what they do. So looks like we're good to go. Go ahead and put this Miller 100 model on. That's the more expensive one, but does a great job at keeping the fumes out of your lungs. There you go. That's what it looks like. Got a Lincoln Viking 1840, and I also have a Miller Digital Infinity Departed, which was the latest one they put out until last month. And when it comes to helmets, just get the one that feels good to you. All of the 1111 helmets are basically all the same clarity on the top end of the scale. The Harbor Freight one that says 1111, it's not as clear as the Lincoln and the Miller. But of the better brands, Arc 1, Lincoln, Miller, God, there's the panoramic view ones. There's tons of them. All of the good ones, 1111 clarity, it's all clear. It's all nice. Get the one you like the best. I will say though that the latest Lincoln Clearview 4C is a little more blue than the rest of them, which are kind of green. and it's a very pretty, very easy to see puddle experience. You might want to check that one out before you buy a different one. So let's run this 6011, see what it looks like. Put some gloves on. All right. .6011 produces a light slag. It's very easy to get off. You don't have to beat on it. Basically, you scrape it. Just scrape across. And the slag will fall right off. We'll just go back. There we go. Clean it up. And it's not the prettiest thing, but I'm just trying to show you with the bead profiles and what they do. As you can see, the 6011 has a sharper profile to it because it freezes fast. That is not a pretty bead, but I'm not going to try to make super pretty beads today. I want to show you the difference in the way these rods run. So, as you can see, it's sharp and it has a lot of detail in the bead, and that's the characteristic of a fast freeze bead, which is 6011. Next up is 6013. We'll take our 6013, get that going. 6013 is smooth, it's a medium freeze. Means it's going to be less detailed than the 6011 is. 6013 has a heavy slag, but it's pretty easy to pop off if it's run correctly. It's going to be a smoother bead. By the way, the reason why I'm not messing around with making pretty beads right now is because each one of these will run a completely different bead based off their angle. And we're just not going to get into that. This is just about how the rod runs. I will, though, next time. That pops off real easy. That's a very typical 6013 bead. Go ahead and brush it off. That is a very typical 6013 bead. That's exactly what you can expect out of 6013 every time you run it. It's got a smoothness to it, a little bit of detail in it. Both the 6011 and the 6013 are fine to run on somewhat dirty metal. The 6011 is more tolerant. The 6013 will do it. As you can see, that bead profile is a very predictable bead for 6013. That's what you can expect every time you run it. Then we have my favorite rod of all time, the 7014. I'll tell you why it's my favorite. It will run in just as hot as the 6011 will. So it'll eat through anything, no matter how dirty it is. But it'll run a bead profile like the 6013. So if you want it to look kind of pretty, to have a nice profile, but you want to get into some dirty metal, you may consider 7014, because not only does it have those two benefits, it's 70,000 tensile strength, whereas those are just 60,000. So let's try it out. 7014. Went out on me there in the middle. That happens with 7014. It's kind of like 7018. You got to keep it running. The slag on it is just as easy to pop off as the 6013. In fact, it's easier, really. The metal's still a little red right now. I'm trying to let it cool off. Tell you what, I'm going to skip this mask since we're only doing really short runs so that I can talk to you guys easier and not have to put that on every time. So, slag should pop right off, just like that. Don't gotta beat the snot out of it. I like to clean the toes out and see if it undercuts or not. That can take a little bit more time if you're anal about cleaning out the toes of it like I am. So, we'll give this a quick polish up. And here is our 7014 bead. And you'll see that it's got the height of the 6013. But it has that kind of fast freeze look like the 6011. Now you can change that simply by holding it up more. That was at the same angle I'm running all of these at, and you can see that it got a bead profile more similar to the 6011 than it did the 6013, but it has the height of the 6013, as you can see. So what I'm going to do, I'll run the 7018 in a second. I'll go back and run the 7014 one more time with a higher profile. So one more thing about the 7014 is it has a really bad glass bead on it like 7018. It's kind of hard to restart. You got to tap it and get that nice shiny metal showing at the tip of it, or it will not restart. So what I'm going to do is I really don't want this to get into too technical about it. I just want to show you the bead profiles, but I would be doing the 7014 injustice if I didn't show you what it looks like if you hold it up instead of at an angle. So let's try that. Okay. Now we'll let this cool off for a split second. We'll chip it, and I'll show you that the 7014 can look differently just by changing the rod angle a little bit. Now that's true with all rods, but I find that the 7014 is much more susceptible to rod angle. So I did it right beside the other one so we could just compare them side by side. Easy chip slag, falls right off. Now what you're going to notice is all of a sudden the 7014 looks like the 6013. Clean it up. Okay, now look. Now the 7014 that looks like the 6011 here looks more like the 6013 here. Look at the dramatic difference between the two just by changing the rod angle. So you can see, you can make these welds as pretty as you want to or as ugly as you want to just by changing the rod angle slightly. The 7014 is a lot more susceptible to this than all of the other rods I've ran, because you can make it look like something else. You can actually make 7014 look exactly like 6013 or 6011 or 7018 even. You can raise it up, pack it in, get a nice high bead profile and get it real smooth. And that's what the 7018 looks like. So I'll show you right now. It's the last rod we've got. 7018 AC. I would run regular 7018 for you, but I'm trying to do this on the buzzbox so that everybody's got one kind of thing. So here is 7018 AC. The puddle is going to be really smooth. It's going to be tall like the 6013. The difference with the 7018 mainly is that it has to have extremely clean metal. You have to have super clean metal to run 7018 or you'll get porosity. And on your starts, you can get porosity as well if you're not careful. In your restarts, some people say they get porosity. Some people say they can do it without it. Most people get porosity if they restart a 7018 rod. Most of them. So we'll see what we've got here. We're only running 105 amps on all these to kind of keep it the same. Our rod angle is about this instead of up here. So I want to basically just show you what they're capable of. And instead of trying to get real technical into the rod angles, I just want to show you what it's going to run like if it's all run the same. You can make them do anything you want to do if you do them correctly. But I'm trying to do this more controlled so that they all look the same in the end to what their characteristics are. So here's 7018 AC. It's a little sticky. By the way, instead of pulling that back off, I wanted to show you something there. You can unclip this if you're stuck and you can't get off. Just unclip it, let it go, twist it off, put it back in, keep going. Don't sit there and fight it. Don't let it stay stuck for too long. It'll heat the rod up. If you have to unclip it to save the rod, go ahead. That wasn't that big.